Hello everyone, Dynamo here. I just want to enlighten everyone with this question. Can modesty be sexy? I'm applying this statement to all forms of entertainment media, like video games, cartoons, comic books, anime, film, etc., and narrowing it down to specifically character design, since they play a big role in how we perceive them. Can modesty be sexy? The short answer is, to an extent, yes, but with the applied context and subtext given for that character. Now, back up. I know some of you may misinterpret what I meant. Don't try and twist my words. I'm not saying everyone's attire or outfit should be more conservative or less revealing. No, I'm not saying that. Look, I love sex appeal on a character too, but there's gotta be some creativity and imagination involved. And you can't just have titties hanging out in bikini. In my opinion, that's a very lazy design. There's no creativity at all. From an artist, designer, or creative perspective, aesthetically speaking, does this make sense for that character generally? Like, what is his or her backstory, their background, the environment, their history, powers and abilities, the intention of their existence, and all that? Does all of it reflect their personality properly, and why? If you're familiar with my channel, you know I love some TNA here and there, but I firmly believe that eroticism should be a bonus, not a primary goal when it comes to character design. Yes, sex do always sell. It's tough to argue against, and I don't mind them in works of fiction. However, that depends if it's done in good taste for that particular individual. The type of context surrounding them is what matters most, and that shows what they represent. Understanding the artist's intentions or the goal for that character, which I think most people tend to miss out. For instance, cultural and religious significance and influences on where the byproduct comes from. I consider it an important deal because different people like different things. A specific design choice, like say an accessory or hairstyle, can either be a form of storytelling for their background, or it can be something that the audience can connect with on a personal level. And this next one, I believe it's very vital for you to know this, and I know many artists out there will argue against this, but it's important because people need to know the difference between nudity and naked, and it's a very gray area to understand. The difference is nude and naked in art is that nude is conventionally attractive, usually that the body is depicted in a way to satisfy one's desire, given in the time period, while nakedness on the other hand will display flaws by conventional standards. Nude is present for the purpose of being viewed. Usually, the subject is visibly aware that they're being object of one's attention, evident by the eye and positioning in the body. Nakedness, however, contains no exhibition or no voyeurism. No one's looking at it intentionally. They're just like, oh. Or let me put this in layman's terms. Let me pick a genre. Let's say cyberpunk, for example, science fiction. The genre itself, it's vulgar, it's naked, and they're very unapologetic about themselves. They take the sex to the extremes. Cyberpunk, it's in the name. Rebellious, progressive, anti-authority, and raw. It's more in-your-face level, very surface. And a contrast to that, the nudity, I would say an artist named Frank Frazetta, the godfather of fantasy art. Now, if you look at his art, they show more of the physical forms such as power, wanting, desire. They express something different compared to the cyberpunk, which is more raw. By the way, check out Frank Frazetta. And so finally, what character or who or what genre, what medium portrays all that? Can modesty be sexy? I would say the most universal character out there that I can point out is Marvel's X-Men, the character Storm. She is by far the best definition of can modesty be sexy. Storm went through so many costume changes throughout the decades, more costumes than Wolverine finding out he has more kids around the world. In her first debut comic back in the 1970s, Storm, she embraced her nakedness, her nudity, both aspects, as more of an art form, a freedom of her sexuality. And of course, later on, she donned her debut costume, which was still revealing during that time. But in a way, it was modest. All of her costumes identify properly who she is. It ties into her character, her personality. Royalty, a sorceress, her weather powers. And another example with Storm is her 90s X-Men costume from the animated series and comic book. Now, this is the most famous one. Now, despite that, it is her most covered up costume. It's sexy in a way still. Yeah, it's skin tight, but it shows it in a way that is clever, that she looks like she's not wearing nothing at all when she flies in the air. That's what the fine line between that nude and nakedness. Some of her costumes later on during the early 2000s, they were kind of intense. You can see a bit of her butt cheek here and there, but it's streamlined, it's focused, it nowhere to draw your attention. So yes, I think modesty can be sexy, but to a certain extent and given what type of character it is. It has some taste, have some class, and be creative, y'all. Thank you all for watching. Dynamo out.